We're actually going to continue it right now by hearing from Brad Duguid, who's the Minister of Economic Development and Innovation for the province of Ontario. This is Ontario, Canada's largest province or state. And his focus is on creating jobs and promoting Ontario as a smart place to invest and in growing a strong and innovative economy. The Ontario government has actually been quite a leader in this regard. I've worked with them on a project, for example, so did Anthony Williams, that was a big citizen engagement initiative where we actually developed some government policies through a wiki. It was quite extraordinary. So with no further ado, please welcome Brad Duguid.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, and it's great to join each and every one of you here. I guess this is the politician hour. You had 5 or 6 ministers up at the front here now, and now you have to listen to another politician speak. I hope that, I know I was listening very carefully to the gentleman before me and had a chance to meet and greet them. Some of them I've known in the past, but I thought it was a very interesting session. So I want to thank them for being here. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you and merci beaucoup. It's great to be here in Montreal. Montreal is one of our great cities here in Canada. It's always been a happening place. And, you know, when I was younger, I used to take road trips out here. I'm from Toronto. We used to take our road trips in our younger days out to tour Crescent Street. Way too old for that now to be doing that tour. But anyone here much younger than me that wants to go out and have a good time while they're in Montreal, go seek out Crescent Street. Anyone my age and older, stay away. It's not the place that you want to be. But I'm still excited, even though I've gotten older and that's not where I hang out anymore. I'm still excited to be in the home of Le Bleu, Blanc et Rouge. For those of you from outside of Canada and those very rare and generally spurned Canadians who are not hockey fans, and there's not many of us, that's the famous Montreal Canadiens. Now, the hockey fans in this part of Canada are used to the Stanley Cups. They've won more than anyone else. They're used to being in the playoffs at this time of year. Well, not quite in the playoffs at this time of year, but they're used to gearing toward the playoffs. So the fans here in Montreal are getting a little bit antsy about this hockey lockout. And I know the minister from Malaysia, who's a good friend of mine, is probably saying, what lockout? What are you talking about? But I'm, of course, from Toronto, home of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We haven't seen the playoffs in many years, and the Cup has avoided us for going on now 45 years. So for us Maple Leaf fans, this is about as good as it gets. I mean, when you think about it, you know, I can't remember the last time we've gone this long without a loss, and I can't remember the last time that we've been this close to a playoff spot at this time of year. Those Canadians in the audience will know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, our hockey teams here in Ontario haven't fared too well in recent years, but we're very excited about the growth of our digital economy. Ontario has long recognized that a competitive digital economy is essential to sustainable growth, innovation, and job creation. Our ICT sector, which employs 270,000 Ontarians, generated over $28 billion in 2011. That's half the total Canadian ICT sector and nearly 6% of Ontarians' gross domestic product. Those numbers reveal just how critical our ICT sector is to our economy in the province of Ontario. In today's fast-moving economy, companies that are not innovative simply will not survive. At the same time, economies that are not embedded fully with innovation will not compete, at least not for long. In Ontario, we're very fortunate because our Premier Dalton McGuinty recognized 10 years ago that when he recognized this when he developed what we call his innovation agenda. And frankly, what that is an effort to make Ontario a global innovation leader. So we doubled the amount we're investing in research, and Ontario now is considered a virtual hotbed of research and innovation. Just just to take a moment, I want to say a few words about Premier McGuinty, because just last week the Premier announced that he'd be stepping aside. Those of you from Ontario, those of you across the country would have known that this is pretty big news across Canada. This Premier gets why each and every one of us here are so high on the importance of growing our ICT sectors. And I believe truly, when the historians consider his record of accomplishment, I have absolutely no doubt that he will go down as one of Ontario's great premiers. You see, Premier McGuinty accomplished many things, but there are two that have been critical to Ontario's rise as an ICT leader. The first is that innovation agenda that I talked about a minute ago. What Mr. McGuinty has done is he's positioned Ontario as the place to be for research and innovation in Canada and certainly potentially even in North America, and that's attracted investment and talent. The second is about talent itself. The Premier has taken Ontario from what was 10 years ago pretty much a failing education system to one that's now considered among the best in the world. We've built a globally competitive education system to feed the high skills demand of such talent-hungry growing sectors like the ICT industry. And so I believe we're on the right track in Ontario. You see, it's not by accident that Ontario is considered the third largest ICT cluster in North America. It's not by accident that when it comes to business startups, the Greater Toronto Area is now ranked in the top 4 in the world. It's not by accident that we've been fortunate to attract significant investments by innovative companies like IBM, Cisco, GE, and Ubisoft, among many others. The fact is, we've worked hard to build an environment that makes us a very competitive place to invest, innovate, and do research. We have world-leading researchers working in world-class university, college, and research institutions. And we've built a culture of partnership in these efforts between government, the private sector, and academia. And that really didn't always exist in our province. It's something that's relatively new over the last 10 years or so. Add to that one of the most educated and skilled workforces in the world and one of the most competitive, effective corporate tax rates in the world, and what you have is a province that is positioned to be a global innovation leader, and that's something we're very, very proud of. Now let me back that up a little bit by sharing some of the results of our efforts with you. Earlier this year, IBM announced it would locate its first and only global virtual research center in Ontario. It's a partnership with governments of Ontario, Canada, and 7 leading Ontario universities. The thing is, IBM could have chosen to be anywhere in the world for this cutting-edge research investment. But they chose Ontario because they want to be where the talent and innovation action is. And we're not just conceiving cutting-edge products and technologies, we're actively commercializing them, accelerating the innovation pipeline from research to market. Ontario's robust innovation agenda means Ontario innovators have a clear path from invention to global markets. And a great example of this is what's happening in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. Minister Goodyear, who was speaking here before me, is from that area. I don't know if he touched on that in his comments, but he's very, very familiar with the success in that Kitchener-Waterloo region. It was once a manufacturing stronghold. This region has now transformed itself into a technology hub. It's anchored by tech giants like Research in Motion and global superstars like Google, and has grown to be the home of nearly 800 tech companies. Among those companies is Ontario-based Christie Digital, the world's leading digital projection provider, and OpenText, Canada's largest independent software company. I think Tom Jenkins, who's the executive chair of OpenText, will be speaking at 5 p.m., and if you can stick around for that, I strongly recommend you hear what Tom has to say. Kitchener-Waterloo is also home to Communitech, one of Ontario's premier high-tech incubators. I visit Communitech every chance I get because I've never come away anything but inspired. If you have a chance to visit the booth out in the exhibition hall, you'll have an opportunity to see some of the work they're doing there for yourself. What Communitech is doing is it's churning out about one startup business every single day. Let me share with you as well many successful startups that have migrated through Communitech. Desire to Learn is one of them. It's a rapidly growing e-learning company, pushing deeper into global markets. They recently just tapped into 2 prominent venture capital funds for an $80 million investment, the largest VC investment in a Canadian IT firm ever. But enough about Ontario alone. I think when we can all be even more, I think that we can all be even more effective at building our ICT sectors when we're all working together. And I know that my friend, as I said, Gary Goodyear was here, and originally my other good friend, Christian Parady, the Minister of Industry, was planning on being here as well. And they've taken a great interest in working with our provinces to grow our ICT sectors. We've set up a number of ICT federal, provincial, territorial working groups, and I'm looking forward to co-chairing the Digital Economy Initiative this year with Minister Parady. Together, these working groups, we're looking at ways to collaborate with the Business Development Bank of Canada to help small and medium-sized businesses to adopt to digital technologies and e-business solutions. You see, this is one of the challenges that we're finding, is that these solutions, as we try to increase productivity in Ontario to compete in that fiercely competitive global economy, that many of our smaller or medium-sized companies are just having a little trouble getting access to the technology and innovation solutions that they need to compete at that scale. So that's very, very important that we focus on those small and medium-sized companies as well. And I heard the ministers speaking about it a fair bit earlier on in the session prior to my speaking. We're working very hard to expand our broadband infrastructure, which remains an important part of the work that our governments here in Canada are doing together. I want to say this about our efforts to work together in Canada. Minister Parady and Minister Goodyear and I play for different teams. If you use a hockey analogy like I started out with, it's kind of like the Canadians-Leafs rivalry, which goes back a long way, but the rivalry here in Canada between the Liberals and the PCs goes back even further. But both Minister Parady, Minister Goodyear and I know and agree that we can achieve much more working together. And there's no room, frankly, for partisan politics when it comes to building a strong economy, investing in innovation, and creating jobs. So I want to conclude by saying this. I'm incredibly optimistic about Ontario and Canada's economic future. I know we live in a global economy that's very uncertain and very volatile today. Each and every one of us, from whatever jurisdiction we're from in this room, deal with that on a daily basis. But in Ontario, we've created 356,000 net new jobs since the global recession. We're up 134% in job creation, which means we've recovered all the jobs we lost during the recession, and we're up an additional 91,000 jobs. In the U.S., they're at about a 48% recovery. In the U.K., they're almost at 100%. They're at about 98%. What that tells me is that we're doing something right in Ontario. I believe we've all been called on as a generation to work through these global challenges and build an economy that can compete in this fiercely competitive global economy. There's no question that to achieve this will require a full-force commitment to innovation and an all-out effort to make our businesses and our economies more productive. The ICT sector doesn't just have a role to play in this effort, they need to lead it. And so I want to close by saying thank you. Thank you to all of you here today at this conference for your leadership. Thank you for your ideas. Thank you for your passion. And thank you for your talent. Together, we will build that next generation economy that we'll be proud to pass on to our kids and grandkids. Folks, have a terrific conference. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day. Thank you.